Today is Saturday, which means I'm standing in the middle of a giant mess again. And I have remade the near side panel to get to achieve two things: get a better fit at the bottom. This is how I figured out where I needed extra metal. I used little strips of tape stuck on this when it was on the car to fill in the gap, and then I traced around the tape. And I wanted to add extra space at the top because I think I mentioned sort of quarter turn type fasteners, Zeus fasteners last time. They wouldn't quite be right for a car like this, not the modern looking ones. But what I did find was some similar sort of quarter turn fasteners where there's a piece that gets riveted onto the back of the inside panel, and on the top there's just a slotted head screw basically. So there's nothing else on the top panel. You don't need the little flat plate with pop rivets and things like that. So I've ordered some of those, and so what I wanted to do was make this bigger so I can attach those on here. You can see I've got a much better fit on this now. It's much tighter. Trim this a lot neater. Redid the louvers, of course. It's kind of funny that something I was doing last week that was really nerve-wracking now is easy. Now I know how it works, and the punch is working reasonably well. So they went okay. This will pull down like that. The only problem with it, well, not problem, but annoyance, was I can't now fit it in behind the manifold. So I had to take the manifold off in order to fit this, but that made it easier. What I find is, the other thing I did is I made welded another bracket on there, so that's bolted to the chassis down here now. Also helps stiffen that. When fitting the bolts and drilling the holes are already in the chassis. The best way I find to do it is do one at a time. So I did the first hole, put the bolt through, did it up tight, marked where the second one was, took everything apart, drilled it, put those two through, and then did the third one. It takes a long time because you have to attach and reattach everything all the time, but it's the only way to make sure you get all the holes in the right place. What I've found in the past is if I try to hold the panel up there and mark around all the holes, something shifts and they won't fit later. You end up having to make the holes slightly oversized to counter for the error. I think with that and some of those little quarter turn fasteners, that'll hold these two together. Pull that down tight like that. Might still need a little bit of trimming here, just that front corner. The way I get these edges trimmed is I'll stick a piece of tape on the body lined up with the edge, the inside edge, and then when this is overlapping you can use the edge of the tape as an offset, and then I use another piece of tape stuck on top of that, and I can keep the width consistent, the gap consistent, and that gives me a line on the panel I can mark and cut to, which is reasonably close. So you can see this fits a lot better. It looks a lot nicer, follows the chassis a lot better. I'm just much happier with it. And I think I pointed out last time I've got most of the dip out of the top. That's now much straighter. Having this sitting down lower also helps as well. And the other side looks okay as well. I don't think I'll use the quarter turn fasteners on this side. I think I'll just use the straps, because this side is the side you'd want to get into much more easily, whereas the other side can just be left alone most of the time. And I think this is going to be the nicest, cleanest solution. Just a couple of straps. I think, pretty sure I mentioned last time I got nickel plated footman's loops. So that's what the straps will attach to. They'll just be bolted straight to the chassis like that. There's a leather belt maker up the road, and I might be able to go and talk to them about getting some straps made, or there's lots of horse people around here, so they would probably know someone who can make up the appropriate leather straps for me. And the other thing I did was took head gardener on a date this morning to the tip shop and picked up in her car some nice solid boards. These were actually from is it boxing? I don't know what it's called. The sort of the formers they use when they're laying concrete. So they were covered in cement, concrete. I just sanded them off. They were able to cut them to width for me there, and they were cheap because it's recycling. But they just nicely fill in the gap so that when I have it on the ground like this, I found I was tripping over things or stepping into the hole. It just made it awkward. But they'll also be useful for if I ever need to lift this up and I want to jack something up under the car. That gives me a nice solid platform. They actually slide quite nicely in between the rails, so I got 5 of those. Couple at the back there too, so I don't fall into the hole. The other thing I was doing today was making a new Brooklands fishtail. This is the steel folded over the edge to give a nice smooth edge on the back, folded up the sides, and I drilled the holes in one side. I'm not sure if this will go like that or like that. Don't really know. I'll see what looks better. Probably like that is safer. It's not going to hit anything. That would make it quite low. Drill the holes there, and I leave the sides taller and then trim them down once I have folded them. And then these will be TIG welded together. The reason I haven't welded them is because the welder is set up for aluminium, because I had to weld that little bracket on. So I need to change the tungsten and change the settings, but that should be pretty easy to weld together. And then that's the little pipe that will go in the end. I'll slot this and then a clamp just to hold it in place. Yeah, this one was way too small. Yeah, it's definitely looking a lot nicer. Out playing with the Riley again. I've switched my TIG welder over to DC for welding steel, and I'm welding up my Brooklands exhaust. Just kind of fusion welding the edges together. These two halves are a little bit wonky, but I'll hammer them to the right sort of shape. That's what this is in the vise for. I can slide it over that and hammer on that edge. I much prefer TIG welding steel. Compared to aluminium, it's just so much easier, so much gentler, so much more calming. TIG welding aluminium is a bit like, it's like angry wasps, or trying to juggle jars full of angry wasps, where you don't like it, the metal doesn't like it, the welder doesn't like it. At any second, anything can go wrong. It's noisy and stressful and horrible. TIG welding steel is calm and slow and gentle, like listening to a ladybird reciting haiku or something. It's just so much nicer and easier. It's quite relaxing, actually. So I'll wait for this to cool down. You basically get the idea. I will gently sand and grind the welds and hammer them smooth. I barely needed any filler. That was just to clamp the two edges together. It's still pretty hot. And then sand it smooth, hammer the edges to get the right shape, and then I will fit this. I need to cut a slot in it as well so I can clamp that up. and then I will probably put the whole thing through my phosphoric acid again to get rid of the surface rust. There's just a little bit on there. You can see this has been through the acid and it's left a coating on it, sort of phosphate coating, which is supposed to stop it rusting anymore, but it still always rusts. But I'll put it through that, and once it's all dry I'll put some high temperature paint on it. This is the Brooklyn's fishtail thing. I wanted a really heavy coat of paint on the inside, but then I overdid it on the outside and it's run. So I'll wait till it's all pretty fully cured, and then I'll sand down the runs and give it another coat on the outside. That should fit on there pretty well. I still need to do a little bit of wheeling on the top, especially this one. You can see it's a bit uneven. I've got a hollow there and a hollow there, but this is the point I get to where I find it really hard to even things out. It's also interesting that I haven't done anything to my wheeling machine, but this aluminium started coming up shinier than it normally does, and I wonder if it's because I've sanded it and then wheeled it, and it's made it a bit more shiny, which is quite strange. So I'll wait until I've got the little clips, the little quarter turn things, and once I've got those I will put the little footman loops onto the chassis and onto that front panel and strap it all down. I don't have the actual straps yet. I need to figure out how do I want the straps, where do I want the buckles for them, on the sides, on the top. Not really sure. Do you have two short straps with the buckle and then the strap over the middle is just a strap with the holes in it? I think that's what I would like. So you've got straps like this where you've got a strap just with that at both ends, and the actual buckle part is sort of down here, because then you can undo it from either side. I think that's probably what I'll do. I wonder if they could reuse these metal things, but then I don't have enough. But I'm sure they'll have all of that kind of stuff. This is the actual correct width, which is about an inch and a quarter. These aren't long enough, unfortunately. Like I say, I don't have enough of them. I've only got 3 of those. Probably just 1 at the back, I'm not sure. But with the little loops on there, I can at least pull it down with string, tie them down tight. Yeah, this side's definitely fitting better than the other side. We'll get to that in the next few days. Really quick film of starting the Velocette from cold. It's not freezing in here today, it's about 10 degrees C, and I'm still not sure I've got the carburetor tuned on this correctly, or the needle in the right position. It's the later amyl carb, not the multi-jet one, but it should start fairly easily. So I turn on the fuel, turn on the power, turn on the ignition, and make sure it's not in gear. I don't use any choke. I've not been using any throttle, and usually it'll cough on the very first pull and then take a couple more pulls to get it to actually run. So if we try that. So that's running. If I do try to open the throttle now while it's cold, it'll bog down and probably stall. Oh no, it's not too bad. You can see the oil pressure is about 45 psi. You can hear it slowing. A little bit of throttle. And then I would usually leave it warming up a little bit just to get the oil circulating. I do have a bit of hesitation though. So again, I don't think I've got the carb tuned exactly right yet. Yeah, died. Until it's had a chance to warm up, it is very temperamental. I don't know if that's normal. This is my only example to work off. But somebody was wondering exactly how I go about starting it. That's what I've been doing. Initially, I did try using choke. I found I didn't need that. So hopefully that's helpful. It's meant to be raining today, but it turned out to be not too bad. Tomorrow's meant to be nice, I think. And hopefully Monday, because Monday I'm taking the Velocette up the road to get a warrant of fitness, I hope. I'll at least take it to them to have a look at. So I'm hoping tomorrow I might be able to do a quick practice just to make sure it'll actually get me there, because I haven't gone too far on it yet. The garage is only a kilometre and a half, maybe 2 up the road, and it's literally up this road, turn right. It's just down there. But yeah, I haven't ridden it on the road, so doing that will be a little bit nerve-wracking. So I'm hoping to go somewhere quiet tomorrow and have a bit of practice. But I was looking at, I've been watching all sorts of motorcycling films, and there's quite a few interesting ones on counter steering and how that works on a motorcycle. And basically the idea that if you want to turn left, you push left, which is counterintuitive, steering in the opposite direction. But what it does is it makes the bike lean over to the left because of the way the wheel turns and the way it all works. But there's different, seems to be different schools of thought on it. And some people say, oh, it only works when you're going at faster speeds. It doesn't work when you're going slowly. But there was a guy who demonstrated that that was wrong. And he also demonstrated it very clearly when driving down a motorway. He had a motorcycle with cruise control, so he was going along at quite a speed, and he was able to put the cruise control on, so he could take his hands completely off the handlebars, and was able to demonstrate with one finger pushing on the bars, so pushing left, and the bike would lean left, and obviously pushing right, and the bike leans right. And then he had another film where he was demonstrating that it does also work at slow speed. And he was in a car park, and he was showing at slower speed, the effect is much more pronounced and much quicker. And I tried that out just on the driveway here, just paddling the bike. It wasn't even running, and nearly fell over because, yeah, the effect is quite pronounced. So you push on the left and the bike leans over. So I think it's one of those things that if you ride a bicycle, you have to do the same thing. You just do it sort of instinctively. But I think it's really probably useful to know on a motorcycle, because doing things like being able to swerve around things, you have to do that. So it's something I want to practice, and I don't want to be conscious of doing it, but I want to be conscious of how it feels, so that then I don't have to think about doing it. It needs to become second nature. But it was quite interesting watching this guy's demonstrations of exactly how that works. But hopefully it gets its warrant. I think it should. Sunday. It's a lovely day. And tomorrow I'm taking the Velocette up for its warrant. Hopefully, or hopefully it gets it rather, and then I can get the registration renewed, and then the bike's all road legal. I'm now road legal because I've got my learner's license, I've got my L plate, and I am allowed to ride the bike up to get the warrant, even though it's not road legal. You're allowed to take it to the warrant place. Theoretically, I could ride it on the road just to get the hang of it. Of course, I wouldn't do that because that would be illegal, but theoretically, if I did, there's a place not far from here. It's a long dead-end street. There's some historic kilns and things up there, and there's a nice turnaround area right at the end where no cars ever really go there. And I thought that would be a really good place to go and theoretically test my low-speed maneuvering and stuff like that. Unfortunately, the idiot boy racers have got there first, theoretically, and they've gone and put, because they've been doing skids and things there, I guess the council put giant judder bars all through the middle of it. So it's no good for practicing motorcycle riding, theoretically. Theoretically, they also leave lots of rubbish around, like old lighters and crap, which I'll throw out. But if I did do something like that, I would be checking to see how well the bike's tuned, and in theory it's reasonably good. I might potentially have a problem with carb needle sticking, but theoretically tapping that with a screwdriver a few times would sort that out. And yeah, a bit of puttering around would be very, very useful, just to understand how the bike works and get the hang of how it feels. It is a slow bike, which, okay, that's not surprising. It is a Velocette LE, they're not fast. Theoretically, I got up to a top speed of around 62 kilometers an hour, which is not quick, and it feels slow. But other things I've noticed that could be a problem: pulling out of intersections, it's not quick, so you can't accelerate that fast. And when you do try to accelerate fast, you get halfway through the intersection and you need to change into second, which is very hard when it's a hand shift and you have to take your hand off the handlebars and the throttle. So that's something I'll have to practice, I think. What else? The roads around here are theoretically quite bumpy, so I may need to play with the adjustment on the shock absorbers. But let's see if it'll start. Starting when warm sometimes seems a bit tricky. Is it on? It's on. So I'm not sure if that's just my restarting technique or if it needs more adjustment. Turn the fuel off. I did work out theoretically that this is reading in miles per hour. This is a little bicycle computer and it gives me the readout in kilometers. It's got a GPS in it, and I wonder if there is a way to see the maximum and minimums, but I can't remember how this works. These things are always average 31, maximum 63.9 kilometers an hour. And that could be a little bit of an issue around here, because if you're just puttering around town and it's 50k limit, it's great. But around here the roads are, some of them are 80 kilometers an hour, and that'll be flat out. But the rubbish away. But no, it went well, theoretically. So tomorrow I will take it up for its warrant of fitness, and assuming it gets that, I'll get a new tag here. Last one was in 2007, and then I can get a new registration for it. This is held under the screw, but it's also cable tied on there so it won't fall off. I don't mind having the L plate on there because I am a learner. So one thing, this being slow, it also doesn't have any indicators, so I'm very conscious of the fact that other people aren't going to know what I'm doing. For example, if I'm coming up the road here from the beach, and I want to turn right into our driveway, if I've got a car behind me, I actually pull off to the left, because I don't trust them to understand that I'm slowing down and hand signaling and I'm going to turn right. It's easier just to pull off onto the left on the grass and then turn around. But yeah, a good morning.